What is going on, guys? The Difference is All Gaming with my review of Akame Got Killed episode 22, and I gotta say, even though this fight was filler, it was actually pretty freaking fantastic. I love the fight, and I also love how they ended things between Akame and Kurome, because of course these two had their problems since Kurome was like introduced into the series, and now it seems that they have finally reached a conclusion, but at the same time it's like a very bittersweet ending because obviously Akame had to kill her own flesh and blood, and that right there, seeing her break down like that after she killed her sister, that right there just like ripped out my heart, and I feel extremely bad for her because once again we have Akame, showing that like she can be vulnerable and weak, and I have a feeling this right here, can always continue to affect her, but of course it will not affect her, while she's out doing her missions. But the episode itself, it starts off, of course, after the aftermath, of Mime's death. We see Akame, Tatsumi, Najenda, Leone. They are all back at the Night Raid base, and so of course Mime did not make it, but we did learn that Mime did take Voodoo or Bado, whatever you want to call him, and that right there I found very surprising. Now don't get me wrong, obviously Voodoo, when he took that blast was powerful, but I thought at first, only his armor, was destroyed, and that right there to like most of the force. I had no idea that like Mime would kill him, and so because of that, I was definitely shocked, and I kind of feel like the like White House made him a joke. Not that I'm saying Mime couldn't kill him. I just thought someone that was like on equal to Estes level could possibly survive that, but be like critically injured. But he is dead, and so Mime definitely took out like a major top threat, obviously, right before she died. But now we see that like Tatsumi, he was kind of like beating himself up, but we see that like everybody was like doing this in their own way, and we even see now that Agenda, despite using Susanoo's trump card 3 times, she is alive, and we see her now that when she was alone, she was like thinking, she was thinking about that to herself. So we can see that even though Agenda is alive right now, she's going through her own suffering. And so that right there, I can also feel for her. But I do wish though that we could have seen the aftermath, of Susanoo versus Estef, because obviously there was no way that Susanoo could have won that. But it definitely would have been nice to see him go down fighting in his final moments. But we do see Estef now. We see her. I'm guessing right now, she's out there confronting the army, the revolutionary army, and we see that one of them actually had one of her 3 beasts. The guy that they were so early on. One of them had Data as Imperial arm, and I was surprised that like SDF did not like really remember him or anything, because that right there would have been a nice little reference if you would have thought about that guy from back then. But this guy obviously got wrecked, because we see that not only did Najena dodge that weapon with ease, but when she like slashed him and made a huge ice wall, and never just split him down the middle. That right there was like so freaking brutal. Right now, Estef is out there doing what she loves, and that is fighting. But we see now that the capital is actually going through like some serious troubles, and we even see now some civilians, they are getting all rowdy, and they're kind of like revolting as well. We even have these regular civilians, they were like throwing rocks and other things at the guards, and Wave like tried to stop one of them, but that right there called people to like throw things at him. So right now we have all the people thinking that the capital is now done for. I'm guessing because they're committed the commander in chief laws, and obviously they have failed to weaken the revolutionary army's morale. So that right there, but by Night Raid stopping that, they brought down the capital. They brought down the capital's morale as well. And now we see the like run. We learn his true intentions, because the only reason that he joined SDF is because he knew that the capital was rotten, and he actually wanted to change it from the inside. And so that right there, makes perfect sense. And we see now that Ren was like also aware Kurome's addition, and of course, she not have that much time left. But the only reason that he knew that right there was because of Wave. He was like acting way too weird around Kurome, and so of course that right there would alert anyone that something was up. But obviously, like with the little bit of time she has left, Kurome definitely wants to tell things her own way, and we see that when these corpses were nailed into these crosses and they were like hung up, Kurome actually left a message for Akame, and so that right there, was like pretty messed up. But somehow, Akame knew what the message meant, and the place where they met up, that right there, would also serve for the perfect place for them to fight. But now we see that Kurome, when she was alone, we saw her now coughing up blood. So I do wonder if she not died by Akame's hand, I do wonder how much time she would have had left. But now we see that when Akame was like getting ready to go to Mina's spot, we have Tatsumi trying to stop her, and we see that, and of course there'll be no way that like Tatsumi could stop her, but he did make her promise, to come back alive, just like how she made a promise early on in the series. So that right there was like definitely nice. But we do see that when Akame and Kurome do meet up at first, they actually were like eating, because both of them definitely are big eaters. But we see that once again their paths were like bored up, and we see now Akame's former squad when like she was in the capital, and we see that the only reason why her and Kurome were like reunited is because people from like her original squad were like killed off, and they needed more members. But it was definitely like the scene in the flashback, Akame and Kurome, reunited, and we saw how well they worked together, because these two, they were like the best pair in the capital. So that right there was like also interesting. I felt like after this, I really want to read that manga spinoff, because that right there covers Akame's past. So that right there, I probably will start once the search is over, because right now I am definitely interested, because I do wonder if what we saw, in this episode from their past, I wonder if that right there was filler, or if it was possibly canon material from that spin-off manga, because that right there would be nice if it was canon, because I actually like that a lot. But now we see now that when Akame first left her, and even though Kurome, failed to convince her to stay, Kurome all this time, thought about her, and thought of ways, or thought about how she could kill her own sister. And so even though that right there was messed up, there is still like nothing but love between them. But we see now that when Kurome summoned Natala and Doya, that right there, made her cough up some blood, because obviously, with her being in this pretty much, almost death-like state, and by her weapon taking up so much energy, from her summoning them, it definitely made sense why, her body reacted that way. But now we see now that all three of them, they were all attacking Akame, and she was actually doing a pretty good job, because we all know that Kurome's puppets, they are no joke. These guys are powerful, and Akame was like doing so well handling them. But we see that while they were fighting, out of nowhere, we had this like mechanical danger pop out of nowhere. I do find it a bit weird how something that big could be sleeping under that church, and no one realized that. That right there was a bit crazy. But we see now that this beast, it did rise up, and obviously, with it covered in its armor, it was definitely hard to kill it. And we even see that it almost killed Kurome, but luckily she was pushed out the way, by one of her puppets, Natala. But I do wonder if that right there was on Kurome's orders, or maybe it was like Natala's own will. I'm not really sure, but a part of me wants to believe that it was a part of Natala's own will. I don't know why, but to me, it was to make it seem, a lot better. But that was like personally how I feel. And then we have Doya, trying to do something, but obviously there is no way her guns could like pierce that armor. So obviously, she was a bit useless, and so it definitely made sense why she was like taken out so easily. So now we have Kurome and Akame. They have no choice but to work together, and we see that once again their teamwork it just be on point because it's amazing. Because we had Kurome cutting like some kind of cord or something, and that right there made the armor open up to expose his real face, and this beast looked freaking disgusting. But we did have a Akame, like coming in there, and she cut his face right down the middle, and obviously, that right there is where it died. So even though the thing, like what was pretty big, it was no real threat because once they cut that cord, to get to expose part of his body, it was definitely a lot easier for it, to be dealt with. And so now once again, they were actually going to continue on with their fight. But then out of nowhere, Wave, he actually appeared, to protect Kurome. And so obviously, like I thought at first their fight might be ruined, but luckily before Wave could like really interfere and attack Akame, we have Tatsuki coming in there as well. And so now I thought maybe we might get Tatsuki versus Wave and Kurome versus Akame. I thought we might get two fights, but we see that like Tatsumi and Wave, like at first Wave was like so concerned on protecting and saving Kurome. He really did not understand, but like Tatsumi definitely understood clearly because he was not here, to attack Kurome. He was just to make sure that like nobody would interfere in their fight because this fight it had to happen because if it didn't, then they could never, really like move on with their past. And even though Wave definitely did not like it, he had no choice but to watch onward. And there was like this one scene where Kurome, she actually was happy deep down that Wave did come there, and we even see that she said if like things were different, or if they met under like different circumstances, then she do wish that they could have been closer. Now I'm someone that actually does pair Kurome and Wave, together as a couple, and so that scene right there, it did make me very happy to see that. But now we see that once again Kurome and Akame, like after that scene, they had to continue on with their fight, and we see at first that when they're sort of about to clash, I thought maybe Kurome did attack Akame, but that right there wasn't the case because obviously Akame, she did impale her sister, but it seems like Kurome's sword, it never touched her, and we all know what happens whenever Akame's sword cuts somebody because that poison killed her almost instantly, and we now have Kurome dying in her sister's arms. And so that scene right there, it was just so very emotional. And we see now that like even Wave, he felt so horrible because he thought all this time there was nothing he could ever do for Kurome. But that right there was not the case because Akame told him that by him coming there, he did more than enough because that right there is probably more than like anybody except for Akame and obviously her close friends that like she hadn't passed obviously but like ever do for her. And so now we see Wave carrying off of Kurome, and we have Tatsumi like look at Akame, and so right now he was like telling her that like they were done losing things that were like precious to them, and that right there caused Akame to break down and start crying. And that right there, was what it was for the episode ending for the most part. But then we have this like one scene with the Prime Minister and the Emperor, and so we see now that they had the secret powerful Imperial arm somewhere in the capital, and of course now they have to activate it because right now things are not looking good because like I said in the beginning, the capital right now is having problems with their civilians, revolting, and we have the army as well, like now closing in, to take over, and so now we see they had no choice but to awaken or use to use the powerful Imperial arm. But I do have a feeling though that the Prime Minister might be doing this to get the Emperor killed. I'm not really sure, but definitely next week I am actually looking forward to. Even though it is filler as far as we know, because we never know if this stuff can become canon or not. I doubt it, but we never know. But the episode itself, like I said, it was good. Akame versus Kurome, it was definitely a good fight. Luckily, Tatsumi and Wave didn't interfere, and I definitely feel feels at the end right there. And so for that, I'm actually going to give the episode an 8.5 out of 10. But of course, I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this. But as always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe because it really helps me out. And you guys take it easy. I will see you all next time.